anything, even spinach will work. It'll just be kind of a neutral flavor thing. But Thai basil also adds a nice flavor. And I would have done that today, but just kind of forgot about it actually.
When I'm making new stuff that I don't do often, I forget shit all the time. So she's not alone. Chef Brian Tsao here, not your typical chef. And today I'm going to be reacting to Pailin's Kitchen Thai green curry recipe. As you know, I'm kind of on a Thai green curry kick, and in an effort to educate myself more on Thai green curry, because now it's all been called into question thanks to Mark Wien's video. Damn you, Mark Wien. Damn you, Mark Wien. I decided I'm gonna react to the first thing that comes up when I type in Thai green curry, and it was actually Pailin's Kitchen. So let's check this out. Before I go on with today's episode, I do want to shout out my sous chef level patrons, Ryan Rasmussen and Michael Schwartz. Thank you so much for your support. What you guys contribute along with the rest of the patrons really does make a difference. And for those of you who are watching and want to support further, please consider becoming a patron by visiting the link in the description below. And finally, if you can follow me on Instagram at Chef Brian Tsao, that would be greatly appreciated. And with all that out of the way, let's react to some shit. The color is really beautiful in this opening clip. This was something I mentioned in Mark Wien's video where I said, I feel like the color wasn't as green as I thought it would be, especially for the authentic Thai green curry. Now, it's undoubtedly authentic, right? It's being made in Thailand by a Thai mother-in-law. I mean, by a dude who I'm assuming is half Thai or very close to the culture because he speaks Thai, and his wife is clearly Thai. With that said, though, that may be just his family recipe that does things a little differently. And if I'm predicting this correctly, I have a feeling that in this video for Pailin's Kitchen, by cooking the paste first or the coconut oil first, so coconut oil first, then paste, or paste and then coconut oil, whichever way you go, actually gives you the more brilliant green color versus going water into paste, or paste into the water rather, and then cooking it that way. I think the boiling of the paste actually is killing the chlorophyll or the chloroplast that's found in the green chilies. You guys corrected me before. I think I said chloroplast and it's supposed to be chlorophyll. Whatever it is, it's the stuff in plants, in the cells that gives it its green color. And when you cook it for a really for an extended period of time, that color dulls down and kind of becomes like a sludgy gray.
So we're gonna start first with reducing our coconut milk. Okay, I've got here a cup and 3/4 of a cup of coconut milk.
Cup and 3/4? That looks like a lot more than that. Okay,
I'm gonna
whatever
add
the case
about
is.
3/4, and I'm gonna reduce this.
So whatever quantity she has in the picture is irrelevant because for the recipe she's only using 3/4 of a cup. Okay, fair.
The coconut milk is made from oil and non-oil bits, and
milk solids is the word she's looking for.
As you reduce it, you destabilize that emulsion, and eventually the coconut oil will separate, and that's what we want when we make a Thai curry.
Wonderful. She's using the word emulsion. So the word emulsion, in kitchen terms at least, maybe in the dictionary too, but as far as I was taught in the kitchen, an emulsion is the combination of two or more ingredients to become one. How stable that emulsion is all dependent on what made that emulsion, right? So something like a mayonnaise is basically an emulsion between egg yolk and fat, and there's a certain threshold where it's stable and it never separates, whereas another type of emulsion is olive oil and red wine vinegar, for example. And if you put this into a squeeze bottle and shake it a lot, it'll emulsify, it'll become this one ingredient, but as time goes on, it'll re-separate. So same principle for milk/cream. The cream eventually separates, leaving you behind milk. Coconut milk is the same deal. If you get natural coconut milk, the fat will separate and it'll leave you with the milk portion. But in canned products, there is usually some type of a stabilizer. What that is, I can't tell you off the top of my head, but for example, like a very common stabilizer in a lot of stuff is like soy lecithin or carrageenan iota, xanthan gum. These are all things that will stabilize an emulsion. So what it is specifically in coconut milk or cream, I'm not exactly sure, but by putting it on the heat, she's looking to break the emulsion spot on. Very good.
If your coconut milk doesn't do that, that's totally fine. A lot of canned and processed coconut milk have been homogenize to stabilize them. It's totally fine, just follow along.
Oh yes, actually, so homogenization is also a very common practice to actually stabilize something like a coconut milk, or specifically even cow's milk. When it goes through homogenization, what they're, the simplest way to explain it is they're passing the milk through like a really fine screen or filter of some sort. And what that filter or screen is doing is breaking up the milk molecules or globules. Why am anyway, you get the idea. It breaks up the milk to such small particles that it actually won't recombine. They're broken up to a point where they actually won't come back. They won't cluster up together again. Over time, especially something like heavy cream, you will actually notice if it's left to sit there for a long time, there will be a portion that rises to the top that gets extra thick. But for the most part, the process of homogenization is actually creates a very stable emulsion.
So I've got here some green curry paste. Now I'm not making green curry paste from scratch because that requires using green Thai chilies, which I can't find at this point. I will, though, include a recipe for how you can make green curry paste.
I already know right now this is like a hiya moment for Uncle Roger. If he watched this, basically, he would be like, how can you not make your own Thai green curry paste, blah, blah, blah. But, even in Mark Wien's video, he mentioned that it's very common to go and buy pre-made stuff. There are places where you can buy it's very common to be able to buy really good quality pastes. And, for her, I don't know where she's filming this from, but I'm assuming it's at a place where she can't get the produce that she needs to make a Thai curry paste from scratch. So she's going to use the paste. There's nothing wrong with that. Even when I shit all over Jamie Oliver's food, whenever I shit on Kay's, videos, I am mainly shitting the fact that they are, well, specifically Jamie Oliver, they're not doing their research and pushing something as, something authentic and, or even showing just clearly wrong technique in many cases. However, with that said, at the end of the day, when you are cooking at home for your own leisure, you can do whatever the fuck it is you want to do. So if you want to be like Kay and make fried rice without cooking the rice first, although people have started to point out that they think she's just trolling at that point, or you want to be Jamie Oliver and make butter chicken without butter, hey man, you be you do you. But once you film that stuff and put it out into a platform for the world to consume, if you don't get your shit straight, you better be prepared for the backlash. Even for me, I don't always say things correctly, but I accept the fact that, all right, now I learned and now I know better. What's so wonderful about cooking is you will never truly master every cuisine type and every technique. And anybody who claims to be the master of everything is a complete fucking liar and piece of shit. The wonderful thing about cooking and most good things about life is that there's always something new to learn about it. Rant over, let's keep watching.
And then I'm also using chicken thighs today. Last time I used chicken breast and I've decided that chicken thighs taste better. And then we'll see how that gets used. So we'll come back to this in a second once our coconut milk is ready. So my coconut milk has reduced until it's pretty thick and there's not very much left. And you notice it's kind of hard to see on camera, but the edges, you can see that the coconut is starting to separate. If yours doesn't, don't worry about it. Just reduce it until thick and proceed with the recipe as per usual. So at this point, I'm going to add in my curry paste. This recipe is spicy.
Okay, so something I do want to mention is, I guess I'm remembering incorrectly because this is 2 for 2 now, where they're doing the coconut milk first and then adding in the paste, which I gotta ask my wife later. Maybe she did tell me that all this time and I'm just remembering incorrectly. I don't make this stuff very often. I am a Western trained chef. Despite what you see here, guys, fellas, ladies, gents, he, them, they, whoever you are, I'm a Western trained chef. I grew up with Asian parents, specifically a Korean mom, a Taiwanese father. I'm married to a Malaysian woman. I've been exposed to a lot of these flavor profiles and cooking techniques and stuff, but I am by no means a pro. I just have a good grasp on these things. With that said, though, now it's 2 for 2. I'm seeing where the coconut milk is being done first, except for Mark Wien's video. Very interesting.
If you don't want to make it super, super spicy, you're going to want to use less of the curry paste. So you're just going to saute this until it's really aromatic. So again, if you are going to use less curry paste, but then you still want the paste to be bright green, because if you use less, and you're gonna have less color going on. So what I would suggest then, wow, the stove is crazy. What you can do is you can take some basil leaves, chop it up a little bit, and grind it in a mortar and pestle along with the curry paste. And that's a way that you can actually boost the green color of the curry without adding a lot of paste and making it too spicy.
Very cool. So the source of the green color is predominantly from the chilies, but she's saying use some, basically a leafy green to increase the green color. I was mentioning that, it wasn't uncommon for me to see some cilantro leaves and stems being put into paste. 9 out of 10 times though, I mean, that was the 1 or 2 times I saw someone make it from scratch. 9 out of 10 times it was with pre-made paste. With that said though, I mentioned in Mark Wien's video, if I wanted to increase the green color, I would put in some, cilantro leaves and stems. May not be authentic, but that's just one technique and method to increase the green color. However, if you make it super authentically, you probably won't need that because you're going to use a good portion of curry paste.
Anything, even spinach will work. It'll just be kind of a neutral flavor thing, but Thai basil also adds a nice flavor. And I would have done that today, but just kind of forgot about it actually.
When I'm making new stuff that I don't do often, I forget shit all the time. So she's not alone.
Starting to bubble around the edges of the curry paste, and that's the coconut oil that is separated from the coconut milk. And then you're gonna add, at this point, your chicken. Now, if you're using chicken breast, the process will be a little different. You will not add the chicken right now. You'll add it at the end because you don't want to overcook chicken breast, but chicken thigh, we're actually going to let this simmer and braise. So I'll include how to deal with chicken breast separately in the written portion of the recipe. Once it's all mixed up, I'm going to add the rest of my coconut milk.
Okay. Interesting.
Some chicken stock.
Oh, so she's doing the coconut milk in 2 parts. Very interesting. Maybe that is why Uncle Roger's Thai green curry was extra greasy, because he put in the full portion of coconut milk at the beginning, separated everything, and it left him with a much greasier product. That was actually something I meant to point out at that video, and after watching it back, I kind of realized it later. But it was a bit greasier, and I did want to knock down that score to like an 8 rather than an 8.9. But over here, we're seeing her do the coconut milk in 2 parts. Very interesting.
Chicken stock will add so much more flavor and body and richness that water will not add.
Okay. It depends what kind of chicken stock. If it's just pure chicken stock with, not a French style or a box type where there's usually like mirepoix in that. Mirepoix being a combination of basically a combination of onion, celery, and carrot along with, garlic and black peppercorn. Those flavor profiles are not part of an authentic style green Thai curry. Typically in Asian cooking, specifically East and Southeast Asian cooking, chicken stock basically means big pot, lots of bones, water, and it's cooking for hours and hours and hours, and that's the base of pretty much all your cooking. Anytime you need to loosen something up, by adding more moisture, you always pull from the chicken stock pot.
And we're gonna let it simmer for about 10 to 15 minutes until the chicken is fork tender. Now, you wanna give the chicken some flavor to absorb, right? So you also wanna go in with some palm sugar, which is gonna add not only sweetness, but that rich butterscotchy flavor that palm sugar is so great for. And also 1 tablespoon of fish sauce. This is probably not going to be all I need, but I want to start out with this.
Yeah, Mark Wien's also didn't have fish sauce, which was very surprising to me. If they added it in, then I totally missed it. But yeah, I think he even asked and his mother-in-law said no.
Well, if you're dealing with store-bought curry paste, it's usually pretty salty already, so you don't want to overdo it in the beginning. Leave some room at the end.
See, here I would have done this a little different, where I would have let the chicken cook a little more with the paste and the coconut milk that she separated, and not sear it, but really get it coated onto the chicken, first. Let it cook a little bit and then added the stock and the rest of the coconut milk. That's just what I would have done.
Oh, and also I want to add my kaffir lime leaves. Kaffir lime leaves are going to add that sort of bright citrusy freshness, and it'll help lighten contrast the richness of the coconut milk. So it's really great in green curry. We're gonna add that now because it is a sturdy herb and it can handle a bit of a simmering. It's looking good already. So bring this to a simmer and then count 10 minutes or 15, depending on how big your chicken is, and we'll be right back. You know how I was saying earlier that if you wanted to boost the green color, you could pound some Thai basil leaves with the curry paste and add it? Well, if you forgot to do that like I did, there's still a way to do it. So you can take some basil leaves and put it in a blender with a little extra coconut milk and then just add it in now, and it will still give that nice boost of green color. Just make sure it's, it's fine-ish so you don't get chunks of leaves.
Cheating. Not necessarily. That flavor profile will still work well. I think it would have worked better if she put it in the paste in the beginning, but she admitted that she forgot. Sure.
I mean, don't make it too green. You don't want this to look like Shrek. I think that's enough. So that's probably maybe like 10 basil leaves and just enough coconut milk to get it going. So our chicken is nice and fork tender. I tested it just now. It's perfect. Now it's time to add our vegetables. Now, last time I used Thai eggplant, which is quite common, but this time I'm going to show you something different. I'm going to use bamboo shoots, okay? Bamboo shoots, the easiest way to get them is to get them either in cans or they come sometimes in plastic vacuum packed bags. They're already cooked because they're a pain to process. So all you have to do is add them to the pot and heat them up. Now they come in lots of different shapes and sizes. I like these ones, or sometimes they'll come in big chunks and then you can cut them however you want. So in these go, and we're just gonna bring the curry back to a boil.
I think Uncle Roger's not a fan of the bamboo shoots. I love bamboo shoots, man. I think bamboo shoots are delicious, so great addition for me.
So while that's coming to a boil, let's talk about our color elements. So we're gonna add some spur chilies. Now, as you can see by the frost, it's frozen, and which is perfectly fine. You can freeze spur chilies. You can also use red bell peppers, and really it's just to give the curry some contrast of color so it looks much more beautiful. With bell peppers, you just wanna do fine juliennes.
Well, that's not julienne. Julienne is a thin strip. That's just slicing it on a bias. Maybe she's confusing her kitchen terminologies.
And I've also got one last thing, our Thai basil. Our Thai basil, we're going to stir it in at the end because otherwise they wilt and turn black.
Yep, that's actually what I pointed out in Uncle Roger's video where he added it in at the same time he put in the veggies, basically. And I thought that was way too soon for me.
Add that final element of floral aroma that's going to round off our curry. And Thai basil works really well with spicy dishes. There's something about the flavor, the sweet smell of basil that kind of mellows out the spice a little bit. So I'm gonna give it a taste. Ooh, that's spicy. Whew. I'm going to add a little bit more fish sauce. It's a little heavy, it's a little flat right now, but just a little bit. I'm going to turn this off now. Give it one more taste.
I guess she's not adding any more vegetables. I would have liked to see maybe one or two things. She mentioned she put Thai eggplant last time. She's not going to for this one. I think you can mess around with it a little. Just if you're going to show this video to Uncle Roger, do not put manchu or snow peas in there or sugar snap. Don't put any peas inside of Thai curry, okay? That's a Western thing. Westerners putting in their fucking veggies in there. For the record, I fucking love snow peas and snap peas. Love it.
Yeah. Oh, yes. So good. So when you taste curry, remember that you're eating this with rice, and the rice is going to mellow out the strength of the flavor a little bit. So make sure that when you taste it, it's really strong. Not that you're making it too salty, but you don't want to make it nice and comfy. No, you want it to really kick your senses. And so once you put it together with the rice, then it's at its happy place. So at this point, we're going to add our spur chilies, Thai basil.
Nice. I like that she's adding this with the heat off. That's actually that's nice attention to detail. There's enough residual heat within the curry as is with the heat off that it's going to wilt down the Thai basil, warm it up, still extract the aromas and the oils. Same thing with the chilies, but you still want there to be an element of rawness, I guess you can say. So you're not looking to cook it. And she's doing it, again, off the heat. Nice attention to detail. Very good.
Beautiful that is. Oh my God. Okay. The coconut oil that we separated in the beginning, as it sits, you're gonna start to see just little thin layers of a really beautiful shiny coconut oil, green coconut oil that's going to float on top, and that is a sign of a well-made Thai curry. And again, if yours doesn't do that, don't worry about it. It's just different coconut milk, sometimes doesn't work. So now we're ready to serve this with our jasmine rice. Now in Thailand, we eat the curry and the rice usually separately, so you won't be served a plate of rice and the curry poured all over it. Usually it's a part of a bigger meal, you're sharing several things. But at some lunch places you get that, but for the most part this is served as part of a bigger meal. And by the way, I said that the green curry is made using green chilies, and it doesn't just affect the color, it actually affects the flavor as well, because green chilies are underripe red chilies, so they have a little bit of a grassier note, whereas the ripe ones, the red ones, are fruitier, and that's why green curry has that distinct flavor that is so good.
Spot fucking on. I was mentioning, I think it was Mark Wien's video where I said, jalapenos are basically unripened Fresnos. Thai bird chilies, there's green and red ones, but the red ones are ripened green ones, and the green ones will typically, because they're not fully ripened, they also will be not as spicy. The capsaicin wouldn't have fully developed. Maybe I'm using the terminology wrong. Please correct me if I am wrong. I do read many of the comments, but yeah, she's spot on with that. Very good.
Get some sauce on it. I want to have a piece of bamboo shoot. Okay.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, dude. Yeah, dude. Hell yeah. That looks
The chicken
banging.
is super tender.
I do wish she used bone-in chicken. It's very common in the West to have everything deboned, but I do think that the flavor of bone-in protein is far superior flavor-wise to something that's bone out. However, it's just not as convenient to eat. It's not as pretty to look at. And they're both delicious at the end of the day. But my preference, especially with most Asian dishes, bone-in.
Flavorful all throughout, and that's the benefit of letting it braise and simmer for 10-15 minutes. It really absorbs everything in there. And the bamboo shoot has a really nice crunch. Doesn't have too much of a flavor in and of itself, but the crunch serves a textural variety that's really, really well appreciated in a rich dish such as this one. So I hope you give this a try. And if you've tried my old recipe, try this one again, and trust me, you will see a difference. And this one is really, really good, and it's really quick and easy too. You can totally do this, do a lot of it, and save it for the rest of the week for your lunch.
Wonderful. Good video. Pailin right here clearly knows what she's talking about. A lot of attention to detail. Very good. Man, this is the third video and third Thai curry video I'm doing, and every single one of them is different as far as the technique. The end product is similar, but also different. This is just another display of, you can take the same recipe or the same dish and everyone's going to make it a little different, and that's actually the hardest part of owning a food business, is the consistency. Maybe your main guy takes a day off, and the weekend guy or the guy who works the days your main guy is off makes it slightly different. How do you control that? What are the bottlenecks that you put in there? Not bottlenecks, but what are the certain barriers or certain steps you put into place to ensure that you have that consistency? So again, third video, totally different technique. I know they're all going to be delicious. I'm preparing to make my own Thai green curry video, and this just tells me, man, like, I just have to pick a direction and own it and just go for it. Like, what I feel is, after doing research, of course, what I feel is the best way to execute this dish. Very cool stuff. If I'm gonna grade this out of 10, I'm actually demoting Uncle Rogers. Let's give him an 8.5. I do feel his end product was a touch greasy, but I know it's gonna be a delicious, so 8.5. Pailin's right here. I'm gonna give her, or Pailin, I'm not exactly sure, but Pailin's green curry here, I'm gonna give this one an 8.9. Let's give it a 9.0. Yeah, 9 out of 10. I think it looked very pretty. The green color was, really nice. Some unorthodox techniques, but again, I mentioned that being a good chef, being a good cook is having the experience and knowing what steps to take if you do happen to make a misstep along the way. And she mentioned it wasn't green enough, so she blended some coconut milk with basil. I do wish that there was a little bit more oil on top floating around, and I think that's because she didn't put as much coconut in the beginning to separate it. This is really hard now that I'm discussing it. I do want to knock it down a little. 8.8. 8.8 is my final grade. That's it. I'm sticking with that. Hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did making it. And with that said, I am Chef Brian Tsao, not your typical chef, and I'll see you really soon.